Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Donna Fiesel, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge Talk Show, where truth matters. Thank you so much for watching every day, Monday through Friday, beginning at 2 p.m., and that's on the Eastern Time Zone, as I get to ride home with you in the afternoon. You can find us syndicated on Abundance Television, found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. You can also find us on the Newscaster Studio, and that's where the podcast is, and it's actually visual. So it's actually the show. It's not just a recording, but it's the show on that network. Also, you can find us on all the social media sites, and we're just always tickled to be with you. Continue sending emails. It makes my day. You're not bothering me. Continue sending those. Donna@donnasedge.com. Donna@donnasedge.com. You guys have been sending all kinds of emails. You're concerned about tariffs. You're concerned about the country as it is as a whole. So let's just go ahead and jump into it. Linda Hansen is with me. She's with Prosperity101.com and is no stranger to the show. We really, really enjoy having you on with us, Linda. Thank you so much for being with us.
Oh, thank you so much. It's good to be back. It's been I think illness and other things in our lives kind of had a couple months where we weren't doing these interviews, and it's good to be back. Good to see you, know what's going on with your family, and hearing responses from your listeners.
Oh, yeah, they're the best, I'm telling you. Mm-hmm. So let's just jump in there and get started. I know we've got a lot of topics. I hope we can get to all of these today. Where do you want to start?
Well, you mentioned tariffs. Let's start with tariffs. Okay. I know before we were recording, we talked a little bit about people's different views on tariffs, and the media wants everybody to be up in arms and, Chicken Little, the sky is not falling. This is, I know even like a lot of my conservative friends that I've known for years and decades, and even great economists who love, free markets and things, have differing views here. I am of the view that we cannot have free trade, and I'm a free trade person, but we cannot have free trade unless we have fair trade. And fair trade does not just mean, there's so many different things besides tariffs. There's the non-tariff trade policies that go into this. There's, what's going to be tariffed versus what's not, what is most affecting our American industries and, the families affected by that and stuff. So I absolutely love what I'm seeing come out of the White House now, and I hope your listeners feel the same. But when I hear that all these car companies are coming back to manufacture in the U.S., just recently, they had the big rally with the steel. U.S. Steel and Nippon, and out in Pennsylvania, Trump was talking with all the steel workers. I mean, I look at this and I think, I've been in this business a long time, and I never did I think there would be rallies of union workers cheering and on stage and supporting and endorsing Republican president. I think that union workers across the country, as well as so many, tradesmen, people are understanding that the left's policies have not served middle America well. It's great for the elites, but it's not great for the middle American workers who are raising their kids, trying to pay their house payments, keep a job, make sure there's a car that runs, can pay for the orthodontist, all those things. And it really brought tears to my eyes for real when I heard these steel workers cheering about these tariffs. Steel is part of a strong America. Mm-hmm. We cannot build without steel. And when we are getting that from foreign countries, like when we're not producing that here in the U.S., I mean, that's just crazy to me. That kind of production, that kind of manufacturing is national security. We need to have our steel produced here in the U.S. so we have that national security, just like our pharmaceuticals, just like our food, everything else. We need to have it here, and to know that these things are happening. And I'm not I don't have like a doctorate in economics or anything like that. I have just seen results over time with things, and it's just exciting to me to see what this is going to mean for states. Mm-hmm. States like Pennsylvania and the workers that have been so sidelined. And as we've all seen, manufacturing towns across the country, shutter. They become ghost towns because these plants and facilities, not just steel plants, but the auxiliary things, the businesses that support those, so towns just shut down, and it's heartbreaking. So I am thrilled that the tariffs are reshoring American manufacturing.
I think so too. Now you're not just steel workers, but I'm talking everybody. So I don't know if you ever knew this, but the sock capital of the world used to be in Fort Payne, Alabama.
I didn't know sock capital, but I know textiles, down in the South.
They were devastated. The whole town almost turned into a ghost town. Mm-hmm. After that fiasco was done. So, the socks and whatever being manufactured overseas, that has never made sense to me.
I know.
What about our people? Can we never become first?
Yeah. It's interesting you mentioned socks. I just bought socks at a running store today. Okay. Just today. And I walked in and I know what brand I like. Mm-hmm. And, they said, what brand? I said, this brand, but I want the ones that are not made in China. And they kind of looked at me like I was crazy.
Yeah.
And they said, how do you know? I said, I read the label. So I picked the ones that said made in USA. Mm-hmm. I told them, if you have ones here that are made in China, I won't buy them. I'll go buy some other socks. And so it was great. I was able to get some that were made in the USA. And that's what we need to do. I mean, this is not rocket science. And, we do need to make our rockets here too, but it is just common sense. And when we think of our food security, our energy security, our economic security, our national security for our military, I love the Golden Dome. I love this. We have been waiting for decades for something like the Golden Dome to be here. And we finally have the technology and the wherewithal to get it built. And now if, there's so many good things happening. And if Congress would just get it together and, if sometimes I feel like Congress has lost the plot, I'm like, look, there's all these, millions of Americans who voted in this agenda. It's not just Trump. They voted in a policy agenda that we hope will outlast the man, because, the man will not be there all the time, but these policies need to be there. Mm-hmm. And the American people gave a mandate. And so, to everybody listening, I want to say, call the Capitol switchboard, 202-225-3121.
You know that one by ear, don't you?
I do. And say whether you want to talk to your senator, your representative, and make your voice known. Like, this is insane what's happening, that they're dragging their feet on so many of these things, like the DOGE cuts. People have been so excited to see that this waste, fraud, and abuse in government is being exposed, and some of these contracts are being canceled. Just the other day I read again about the software licensing contracts. I don't know if you read about that, but there's, we're all guilty of it, right? We have a subscription to something. We have we have 2 subscriptions to the same word processing thing or something, we one with one email, one with the other, and it's bad enough on the individual level, but multiply that by the government. We're talking, millions of these contracts that they are finding. And this is, every time you see this, somebody's always posting, I voted for this. Yep. This is what I voted for. Mm-hmm. And, I want to say to Congress, hello, this is what we voted for. And I would hate to see them all be lost in the midterms. because Congress couldn't get their act together and fulfill the will of the American people.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. It makes sense that you're in Congress right now. You're going to go ahead and help push Trump's agenda, right? And I'm talking full force. I'm not talking about this little penny ante stuff. I'm talking about be forceful, because we hired President Trump because he is, and because he knows how to get results. He's a businessman. Of course, he hasn't been in, office like forever, like most people in Congress have been. So what is wrong with some of these Congress people? Why can't they get it?
Well, I will mention that Lindsey Graham was just in Ukraine, right? Mm-hmm. And, what is he getting in Ukraine? How come he hasn't been to North Carolina? How come he hasn't visited North Carolina? And so it's like, okay, we see where their bread is buttered. And I think that's where, we, the people, again, it comes down to us. We really have no one to blame except for we, the people. We have no one to blame. The people there, we can blame because, we sent them there, whatever. Mm-hmm. But did we send the wrong people? Did we not run ourselves when we should have? Did we not follow up? Did we forget to read the Constitution before we voted?
I think laziness has a lot to do with it. I'm telling you, that nobody could ever say you and I are lazy, okay? That no one can ever say that and tell the truth. I'm talking about lazy people who listen to their Uncle Joe who hasn't voted in years, tell them who to vote for.
Or people who are not willing to go dig for the other things. Because to really get to truth, this is one of the things that I find frustrating when I'm talking with people who have what has become known as Trump derangement syndrome, or, they just can't possibly even, talk to you anymore because you voted for Trump. And that breaks my heart. It breaks my heart because that's not the America I know. And that is not the way, friends and family and neighbors and coworkers and things, that's not the America we know, right? And why is that? It has been so pushed. Everything is just twisted in the mainstream media to make lies about Trump. Now, do I agree with 100% of everything Donald Trump has done? No. I don't agree with 100% of stuff I've done, for Pete's sakes. So it's like, there is no perfect person. And I always say too that when we look at scripture, we look at the people that God used to absolutely change the course of history, or we look at people not in scripture, like more in American history or something that absolutely changed the country for the better. They're all flawed individuals. So there are going to be things that people disagree with or whatever, or things that happened 40 years ago, right? We're talking about here and now, and we are talking about the policies that are going to be great to move this country forward. And we cannot depend on the mainstream media and the twist that they put, because their bread is getting buttered by the globalists who want control. And if we don't have the self-discipline and the care enough about our own freedom and the freedom of those who follow after us, our children, our grandchildren, if you happen to be someone who doesn't have kids, you probably have nieces or nephews, for Pete's sake, you have dogs and cats, like I'm saying, and that's a whole nother rabbit hole to talk about. It's a whole nother rabbit hole. But as we looked at what Dr. Fauci did, that's a whole nother, but you have to go deeper and you have to find other options for your news and information, and it takes a little more work. You can't just turn on the TV and blindly listen to the headlines, and it's not going to serve you. I speak fairly often to groups, and one of my most popular presentations is called Navigating Cancel Culture, Tips for the Employer and the Employee, right? Mm-hmm. And it's interesting how to navigate this in the workplace, okay? But I tell people, you have to look at all of these different sources of information and be able to kind of funnel them down. You're not going to agree with everyone. A lot of people only like to look at what they agree with. And that's dangerous for all of us, right? So we have to look at the big picture, follow the facts, get to the original sources, right? But it's
original sources and not a sound bite.
Right, not a soundbite, and it takes a little more work, but it's very worth it. And I think that's a big part of where people are so frustrated is they just sense like something's not right. But again, let's go back. It's on us. It's on us, the people. God has given us a great gift with America, and that is a nation that the government was there to protect our rights, not give us our rights. And that was the first nation, we were the first nation to come up with that, novel concept, right? We don't need a king. Okay. Now people are calling Trump a king, because he's doing this or doing that. But actually what he's doing is really, trying to protect our God-given rights and not have them trampled by government. So, if that's something you support, whatever it is you support, listeners, it's up to you to make your voice be heard. And if you want to complain about Washington, D.C. or your state capital or whatever, I hate to be rude, but look in the mirror, because, we all need to look in the mirror and say, am I doing everything I can? I mean, we all can't do it full time. We can't. We have jobs. We have families. We have, the country has to run, right? With all of the people in these businesses and industries and stuff, the country has to run. So we need all of those people doing their thing, right? But those people need to be talking to all of our elected representatives. And, I get guilty of it too. Like at times life is busier and I think, I want to call on that issue. I really have to make my voice be heard on that. And then the next thing you know, they voted on it and I hadn't called. And I mean, I really do try, but
that's when I kick myself.
Yeah.
Because why couldn't I have taken just 2 minutes?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, me too. I think it's true for everybody. But, as you and I both had illness this winter, right? Well, I can think of times I slept through what I was supposed to do because I was really sick. I mean, we can't always be 100%, right? And so, but as citizens, we need to do our best. So, for your viewers, for your listeners, I want to say, I'm not here to, complain about anybody. I am an American citizen too, that is just trying to do my best, making sure that we get information out to people so that they can make better decisions. So whether it's in the workplace, like I love to see with employers, educating employees in the workplace, because, that's so important, or it's in your family, educating your kids. I mean, and these are simple things that can be done in a family. But now I'm just amazed with the tariffs, going back to the tariffs, we'll always wind back to that, but going back to the tariffs, already we are seeing so much growth. We are seeing growth. We're seeing this reshoring of American manufacturing. That is going to help all those communities. The effect of that is going to be incredible. And there may be a few hiccups here or there while things settle down, but that's not anything. I mean, if we're ill, we don't get well overnight, we might have to do some things.
So let's just use this comparison. I believe in comparison voting. And what I mean by that, okay, I'm going to use Lindsey Graham. Okay, so Lindsey Graham is South Carolina, where I'm at right now, okay? I'm not hearing a lot of good stuff about him in my neighborhood. I'm just not hearing it. So there's a guy who's running against him. His name is Mark Lynch. And I interviewed him the other day. Now, I was kind. I did what I needed to do, but I had some questions myself. My point is, when people are running for office, we need to ask questions, okay? I really like what I heard from Mark Lynch. Let me tell you about Mark Lynch. He's never run for office before. He's never been in a political office before, ever in his life. He's a businessman.
That's
small business.
Yes.
Made it a very successful, and I'm not talking about, unsuccessful business people. I'm talking about this guy is like guy that going on. He made a success out of it. Okay. His dad started it, and his dad was very successful in his own right, but Mark took it to another stratosphere. Okay. So, I mean, he really succeeded. If I'm comparison voting, if I'm looking at person A and person B, I think I'm going to choose the guy, which I'm going to do, the Mark Lynch guy. Okay, the businessman like Trump. Okay, successful. Remember hearing about Trump with the skating rink? They'd thrown all this money in New York.
Right.
Said, let me have it. Well, they've been at it for years and just never fixed. So now let me have it. Well, he does it way under budget.
Way under budget, yeah.
And like no time at all, basically, to get it done.
Well, like the Jerusalem. Yeah, the embassy in Jerusalem. It was the same thing. And I just listened to an amazing speech by Dr. Jim Garlow. People could find it on their website. I'll see if I can get the website address, but an amazing speech that he gave in Israel. And it was kind of a whole history of Israel, Dr. Jim Garlow. But one of the things he talked about is, every American president would say, oh, we're going to move the embassy to Jerusalem. We're going to do we're doing it. We're doing it. We're on it. Right. And the only one who said he would do it and then did it is Donald J. Trump. And the other thing about that is, everybody said, oh, it can't be done. It's going to cost too much money, all this stuff. It came in, under budget, before the deadline time that was, estimated. I mean, it's amazing. And it just goes to show what can be done. You can do so much. Look at what Doge did in the first 100 days. Like, oh my word. I mean, amazing, right? And so, if people just had the backbone to follow through on that and to think more about the country than they do about their back pocket, I think that, the country could be in really good shape. But there again, this is going to be with the people keeping the pressure on the elected officials, because that's the only thing they'll listen to. I mean, that's the only thing. And, there's so many issues. We talked about the tariffs, but, there's all these things that are happening. I mean, the executive orders regarding energy, energy independence and energy dominance is national security. Just like the tariffs are helping with the economic security and the manufacturing of goods here in the U.S. is making sure that we have, that supply chain security. We don't have to be dependent on other countries again, and not to say that we don't trade. It's not to say we don't have that, but we have fair trade, balanced trade. We have something that is in America's best interest. And, and so that's what we need to do with energy too. And as someone who, again, not an expert. I'm not a chemical engineer or anything, but I've done quite a bit of consulting with a nonprofit that was and still does promote the development, commercialization of nuclear energy, especially like molten salt reactors and the other small modular reactors, and working on for years, working on the regulatory changes needed to create a pathway, a more efficient, time efficient and cost efficient pathway for these new modular reactors to be built that were proven to be safe, proven to be effective, proven carbon free, proven reliable, all these things. But it's like regulatory swamp. I couldn't think of the word, but regulatory swamp.
Yeah, you're right. You are absolutely right.
Was stopping everything. And now with this executive order, it is opening up the pathway quickly. So it just goes to show what can be done quickly. And we need to do this because without energy independence and energy dominant, we are not safe as a country. We are already hearing, like in some of these solar panels and things, that China has switches in them. I mean, they're made in China. They have switches that can be, turned on, off, whatever. There's so much threat to our grid. And if anybody's watching worldwide, we see Spain, Portugal, some other countries recently have had their grids, it's down. Everything's down. You have no lights, you have no internet, you have no power. And so we are really at risk for that. So the more we can do that right here in America, on American soil with American workers, I mean, it's common sense, but when you get corruption involved, common sense goes out the window.
Well, let me mention this. This is a common sense thing right here. Okay, everybody walks around with one of these, right? You got your little cell phone right there, whether it's an iPhone or an Android. Where are most of the components for these smartphones made?
Oh, yeah. I know.
Yeah. Does that not make you just a little bit nervous? Because these people are pretty smart, okay? And they've got one purpose in mind, and that's to destroy the United States, okay? This would be the perfect thing right here.
Well,
all you got to do is tweak a little component inside this thing. Right? I know, because I was in the cell phone business for a number of years. Yeah. I know you could put something weird inside this phone right here, and it could explode all over the place. Yeah. With whoever's holding it between their legs, whatever they're doing, and the car driving around. I've got this whole thing.
It's really
a long time.
Yeah, and there are now phones that are made in America or assembled in America with, secure parts and things. And there's work to be getting all the components made in America. And it's just, we'll get there. But I tell you, at least the fact that Trump is putting these tariffs on Apple and things, and I'm not sure what the exact, as of this recording, because some of these negotiations have gone back and forth, which of course the mainstream media goes crazy. They talk about him changing his mind and things. And I think, have you never negotiated a contract? Sometimes they go back and forth and back and forth. It's like, this is stuff. And he knows the art of the deal, and he will be dealing for the American people. So am I concerned about that? And I'm concerned about the data, all of that. But I also know we are really at a tipping point right now in our nation. And there are things that we absolutely must do if we are even going to think about having a secure nation, if we're even going to think about having an economically sound nation, if we're going to even think about having our pharmaceutical products or our agricultural products or, our manufactured products made here with quality and assurance and, again, with American workers on American soil. I don't know why anyone would think something different. Not that we can't trade with other countries, because that's good too. But we need to protect the American jobs and the American families. And that's not the globalist agenda. So these people you see voting in these really, crazy ways, where their bread is buttered. What's going on behind the scenes. And we need to hold them accountable.
Absolutely. Girl, we got to go into a commercial break. We'll be right back in just a few minutes. Man, half time just goes by so fast. We'll be right back.
Twin City Used Car Sales has been serving drivers in the Northeast Alabama area for years with a quality selection of late model used cars, SUVs, and pickup trucks. On top of our extensive selection and competitive prices, we offer professional auto financing services for used car buyers of all credit levels. Whether you've just begun your search or you're ready to secure your next vehicle, at Twin City Used Car Sales, you will drive away with the vehicle of your dreams. The sales and finance staff at Twin City Used Car Sales looks forward to serving you, and you can apply for financing online before your visit to our used dealership in Gadsden, Alabama. Check us out on the web at twincityusedcars.com or go by our location at 901 First Avenue, Gadsden, Alabama. We sincerely look forward to serving you. At Lamone's Mexican Restaurant, located in Henniger, Alabama, and voted Best Mexican Restaurant of DeKalb County, Alabama 2020, we're here to serve you with authentic Mexican cuisine. Order easily online by going to limonsmix.com or call 256-657-3999 to place your order. We're open Sunday through Thursday, 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Friday and Saturday, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Whether you're celebrating a cozy date night for two or a celebration for a crowd, at Limon's you'll love our atmosphere and friendly servers. Thank you for dining with Limon's Mexican Restaurant. At Liberty Bank, we're all about community, whether it's to help with a charity fundraiser or help families in need. Toys at Christmas or a local football team, we're here for you. You see, we realize the importance of family. Sometimes it's to build a new home or necessary home repairs. We're here for you. If you like the feel of a small town bank with all the conveniences of a big city bank, we're here to serve you. You will find us at any of our convenient locations in DeKalb, Marshall, Etowah, and Blount counties in North Alabama. You can call and speak with any of our friendly staff at 256-659-2175 or check us out on the web at libertybankal.com. And thank you for your support of our community. Member FDIC Equal Housing Lender.
Because of your overwhelming support, our 1488 MyPillow has been one of the biggest sales in MyPillow history. I couldn't think of a better way to say thank you than to extend our wholesale pricing through Christmas. Get a classic standard MyPillow for only $14.88. Upgrade to a queen size, just $18.88. King size, only $1 more. Get my body pillows for only $29.88. And ready? Multi-use MyPillows, only $9.88. It's perfect time to stock up for Christmas gifts for everyone on your list. Go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to take advantage of our wholesale pricing. Including my classic standard MyPillow is only $14.88. But that's not all. I'm so confident you're going to love our classic MyPillows that I'm going to extend my 60-day money-back guarantee until March 1st, 2025. Plus, orders over $75 ship absolutely free.
We're back. My name is Donna, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge Talk Show, where truth matters. Yeah, I'm your host. You tell us what to do here. We've received so many emails about the tariffs, and Linda has handled that as well, and other things we're going to discuss. But now, Linda, it's something I am noticing. You know, I mean, it's like every kid wants to be different from the parent. Now, you go along with your grandparents, but your parents you think are weird, okay? What I'm noticing is young people seem to be thinking now. Let me tell you what happened. So I was shopping. It was right before we moved. So I was shopping, finding some stuff, you know, to move with. And so this woman just like brushes by me, just like almost runs over me in the store. Well, she had this teenage son who looked around at me and said, "I'm sorry." He apologized for his mother. I'm seeing little things like that. Is there this new awareness coming in? Could it be because of prosperity101.com?
Well, I would love to think that, you know, I think with some people it might be, but I think it is more the spiritual revival, to be honest. So that's where, you know, all credit would go, glory to God, in the sense there is truly a spiritual revival bubbling up, and it's happening with the young people. I think they are tired of having all the woke nonsense, you know, shoved down their throat. This is June. It's Pride Month, right? Mm-hmm. And we are seeing so many different changes within companies, but some of them are still really bad. I mean, follow Robbie Starbuck and he'll give you some exposés on companies, what's going on behind the scene at some of these companies. And then, you know, you look at Moms for Liberty or these other places exposing what's going on in the schools. You know, we're not out of the woods with this stuff, but it's very, very exciting to see. Now, you mentioned Prosperity 101, and yes, would I love to get Prosperity 101 into the hands of anybody? That's great, but it's specifically designed for empowering employers to talk about issues with their employees. And it's basically really, a basic civics course. It's helping them understand what prosperity is, that it's human flourishing and freedom. It is helping them understand that the government really has nothing until we give it to them first, and helping them understand our rights come from God. Our rights are inherent, and it is government's job to protect our rights, not to give us our rights. And this is done very simply in some very, very simple, like we're talking 5th grade level lessons. But then we go into a few things like the policies of prosperity. And, we look at some basic policies that every business has to deal with, regulatory policies or, higher minimum wage mandates, different types of, things that every business deals with, no matter how big or small you are, and how it affects your ability to employ people. But then as these people begin to become aware of this, and the light bulb kind of goes on for them, and then the last section of the book or the course, or even when I'm speaking to these groups, is helping them know how to protect their prosperity, and I say by becoming informed, involved, and impactful. So they just know how to be that active citizen that we were talking about before. And it's a very basic thing, but it's a step. And for employers who understand what's happening, they know what time it is in America. This is a tool that I really want to get in your workplace. Contact me at prosperity101.com. Please sign up for on my Calendly link, and let's have a discovery call, and we can see if this will work in your workplace, which I know it will, because I'll customize it to make sure it does. And I've had employers say, it just really helped bring a lot of loyalty and retention. It has greater engagement because people understand what's going on in the business more. It brings about better communication, right? But one of my most recent clients, he said he really felt like his employees started to understand what it was like to be the owner. And how many business owners would love it if their employees would even have a clue what it's like to be an owner. But it's very gentle. It's not, it's not deep. It's nonpartisan, but it really opens the pathway. And I'd love to work with your listeners, whatever their business is, large or small. Let's get this to your employees. Let's get this into your workplace so it can start the conversation and the learning. And even if you are afraid, if you're a business owner and you're afraid of talking about these things, you think, well, I'm not that kind of person, That's why I did the online course too. So it can be plug and play, and it doesn't have to be mandatory, but offer it to your employees. I make sure that it's affordable, it's accessible, it's really suitable for really any business. And I would just love to work with your businesses. It would be an honor.
Well, it's just, you're bringing common sense right back into the workplace, and it really needs to be there. I mean, it really does. And this is another thing, and this is pushed by the liberal agenda. And they want to act like everybody who works at a place is, like you don't care about gay people. You hate gay people. That's not true at all. I worked with GTE, and so it was mandated. I had to go to this thing, learning how to get along with gays and lesbians. I had to go. It was mandatory. And I was like this guy's number one salesperson. I had government and corporate accounts. And so it's so funny. I said, I've got to stay 2 weeks of this. I've got to go to Nashville, the headquarters. I said, I can't afford to be. I've got to be with my customers because my customers are my babies. Right. I mean, I had to take care of my babies and billing coming in, and people didn't understand their billing. You had to practically hire an accountant to understand the billing. So that was my job. Not only did I do the sale, I went out there and I helped them to understand things. And he said, it's mandatory. I said, so you're telling me that if I don't go to this, you're going to fire me? He said, I'm saying I could fire you. And I said, well, I'm taking that as a threat. And I said, let me tell you something. I said, I don't hate gay people. I don't hate lesbians. I don't hate anybody.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean I've got to sit and hold signs for them. Just because I'm not holding signs doesn't mean anything.
Right.
They choose their lifestyle. I've chosen mine. And so, I mean, first one thing then the other, I had to go. It was mandatory. I had to go to it. And I was just sitting there thinking, during this meeting, they were acting like you're a hater if you don't go along with it, if you don't agree with it and all this kind of stuff, you're a hater. And I'm sitting here thinking, there's some foods I don't like. Does that mean I got to hate people that like it and I don't like it? I mean, it's just nonsense that's been going on for decades.
Right. It has. It's been creeping in for decades. But here's the thing. It's like I mentioned, Robbie Starbuck, and I saw him post something about Kroger. Kroger was doing a lot of the pride stuff behind the scenes and even to emails to customers and things too. And he's like, why is it that we suddenly have to be concerned about everybody's sexual preference? Like, why is it we have to have everybody talking about their sex life with kids? I mean, this is not healthy. And, but it is that spiritual warfare that we talked about a little bit. It's part of that spiritual issue happening in the nation. So, for Christian, going back to Prosperity 101, just for a second, for Christian employers especially, if you're listening and you have a burden for your employees, it's maybe not the most open place to share your faith or to share these things. This could be a great bridge. It just lets them know. The very first lesson of my course, or the very first thing in the book, is, why am I taking this course? And it's because your employer cares about you. It's not that the employer cares about an agenda. It's not that the employer cares about, getting certain points and funding from somewhere because of this information. It's because your employer cares about you and your freedom and your ability to flourish in the future. That's why I have my course for employers. Okay. But if you look and you think, why can't people just sell groceries? We do not need to go buy a motorcycle worried about how many people are going to be trans. I mean, it's just insane, right? And people are up in arms about these policies that Trump is putting in about the men and women's sports and cutting funding for trans surgeries in the military or things or schools that promote it or things. Yeah. Well, it's kind of like, you can do whatever you want as an adult, right? Doesn't mean I have to pay for it. And this is what people forget. And it's like I don't have to pay for your lifestyle. And, and then too, this is not helpful for our children. One of the things we talked about before we were recording is talking a little bit about, education, what's happening with education and things. And I noticed, I shout out to Mississippi. I don't know all the details, but they went from towards the bottom of the list in student test scores to really soaring up towards the top. And what did they do? Well, I just had a chance to look at this right before we came on. And I'm like, oh, lo and behold, they use phonics. That's part of why I homeschooled, because back when I started homeschooling too, they were just phasing out phonics for everyone. And I thought, well, that's dumb. We're going to have a nation of illiterate people, which is the plan. And you hear teachers talking about this all the time, that, the students, they're asked to write a 5-sentence paragraph and they can't write it. They act like it's too much work. They don't know how to put the words together. And, this is a matter of national security. So I guess like you say, trying to get to the young people, helping the young people understand. And, we need a true wave of the Holy Spirit. We need, we need that revival, but that revival, that spiritual revival, opens up the mind. We transform our minds by the renewing of our spirits when we trust Jesus Christ. And that is, the most exciting thing I think I see happening among young people, that there is a shift. And that can only be God.
It can only be, because parents and grandparents in some cases have messed up. And I'm just telling you that. I've seen it happen. Okay, you and I were talking backstage. We have a show backstage, Just know what we do here. Okay, and this is about Phil and I were moving, and you mentioned this. Phil and I were moving, and one or two little trucks kind of doing this on the road. I really didn't pay that much attention. But we were back and forth. I mean, we were going Alabama I-20 to 85 and then up to Abbeville, South Carolina. We made several trips back and forth, those interstates. We were noticing truckers. Now, truckers, I love truckers. And I thank God for the truckers we have doing their job and doing it right. But I'm talking about, I don't think these people were truckers. It was too different. You have to open your eyes and you have to notice what's going on around you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Notice things too.
Yeah. This is a matter of national security.
Yes, it is.
Absolutely a matter of national security. And right now, before I forget to mention them, I want people to, if you're on X, I know their X handle, I can't remember their website, but it's American Truckers. I think it's American Truckers United, I think. But it's not the, American Truckers Association. It's not that. It's people who are really concerned, truckers who are sounding the alarm about the amount of CDL licenses being issued to illegal immigrants who do not speak English. They don't know our systems, our road systems, anything. They many times are hauling illegal items as well, sometimes trafficking of people. But these licenses, are just getting issued. This is a matter of national security. And so their X handle, if anybody wants to follow this, is ATU Trucker. It's so at ATU Trucker on X. And I've been following them now for a bit, getting more acquainted with this issue. And it is just such a concern. And there are many fake trucks out there. They also talk to you about how to spot the ones that aren't, the Pepsi truck. That's not really the Pepsi truck. Mm-hmm. Or I mentioned one to you before we were recording was, we were driving like down in Texas, New Mexico, that whole area down there. And I saw a few trucks, just the white trucks, no license plate, no writing, but big trucks. And they had like air vents in them. So it wasn't like a normal semi that it just concerned me. And thankfully now, that was before the border was closed. That was before Trump was president. That was last year. And thankfully now, hopefully, like a lot of this trafficking is stopped. But these truckers that are on the road are not only a threat to national security regarding what they carry or how they drive and things, but they really are causing a lot of accidents. And it's just like, the crime among illegals. People say it's not happening among illegals, but it is. And, not that it never happens with a legal citizen. I'm not saying that, right? Mm-hmm. However, if you're going to be here and you're going to be driving on our roads and you're going to be transporting our goods and services, which is, what they claim to be doing, right? Or our goods, I should say, you need to be an American citizen and speak English, speak and read English. So you understand the rules of the road. This is a matter of national security. It's a matter of safety. And, again, we go back to common sense, but common sense goes out the window when corruption comes in. So it's up to we, the people, to sound the alarm and make sure we let our legislators know. A lot of legislators don't even really know that this is a problem. And I want to give a huge shout out to my friend, Sean Duffy, Secretary of the Department of Transportation. Sean and Rachel are good friends, long time in Wisconsin. But I have to say, Sean has hit the ground running and hit the skies running, But it's like day one, he's in office and there's the helicopter crash at Reagan Airport, the collision. It's just one thing after another, but they are addressing these things. But, they've all been left. The previous administration had 4 years of, making sure we knew that Pete Buttigieg was off for maternity leave and paternity, maternity, whatever. And we saw pictures of him supposedly breastfeeding his baby. They were renaming the cockpit because they couldn't use the word pit, instead of upgrading the systems, upgrading the computer systems, upgrading the communication systems. These are crazy things. And, so that was what was going on. So, this administration, I guess I want to just encourage people, you cannot expect Rome to be built in a day. I mean, I think that they're like the first 100 days of this administration has been incredible.
Yes, I'm not understanding why people are not talking about that. It has been incredible.
I mean,
it's been accomplished in 100 days.
Yes, and I don't know what it is. I don't know exactly like how many it is right now as we're recording, but I can't wait to get to 200 days. But I mean, they try to stop him at every turn, and that leads us to another whole thing. Another whole thing, which is the lawfare and the judicial activism. And I think we talked about that the last time I was on, because it was just really becoming more prevalent. Like this is, they can't stop in some ways. They can't constitutionally stop a lot of these judgments and things that these judges are issuing are not constitutional. And they know it. They're just trying to delay and delay and delay, right? And tie up the system and tie up the progress. And so again, we have to be creative. And I think DC Drano, has talked about some creative things regarding the writ of habeas corpus, and people can look at that. I know people have different ideas, but dealing with that, with the illegals and things. I mean, President Trump has been handled, just a country in a mess. And they have had to get in there and dig in, and, everything is not going to go right all the time. There's going to be some delays. There's going to be some hiccups. There's going to be people within the government that aren't, on the mega agenda. It's going to happen. You can't have that much going on without some things going wrong, or, and you can't please all the people all the time. But where we are economically, where we are in terms of national security, where we are in terms of energy security, where we are in terms of, we haven't even touched on Maha and like our health and everything else in terms of, making our children healthier, making sure our food chain, our supply of food is healthier, our farmers are protected, our transportation grid is modernized and safer. I mean, these are big things. And to think that they're all being addressed is just remarkable to me. It's just
put together the right team of people, and they're all the same mind. And if they're not in the same mind, he handles it just like I would in my business. Out.
Yeah.
What they're
apprentice or fired, right? However, this is where that lawfare comes in again. I mean, when he was president, they kept trying to, make sure he had how many felonies, whatever, and they wanted to make sure he was in jail. Now they just want to stop him at every single thing he does. Like, what does this district court judge or whatever have to say about national security? Like, no. They're outside of their jurisdiction. But these types of things I started to mention are happening internationally too. So if we look at what's happening, people need to pay attention to what's happening in Brazil. Okay, President Bolsonaro there, right now he's in prison. And it's the same type of thing. His son, Edward, who is a true patriot for Brazil, he can't even go back to Brazil right now. Follow what's happening with that. I mean, the communistic, socialistic policies there, Marxism, everything is just so prevalent. We look at what's happening. We saw it in France. We see it, all over the country or all over the world. Anytime you have these nationalist leaders, these people who care about their country, like they want a strong country as part of their engagement on the world stage. It's not isolationist. Just putting their country first. It's like self-help. We say, you can't pour from an empty cup. Right? Make sure you get good nutrition. Make sure you sleep, get good sleep. You have adequate water and exercise. You take care of your health. You reduce your stress. You can't pour from an empty cup. Okay. Well, our country and these other countries can't pour from an empty cup. And we can't continue just unrestricted immigration and things. The UK is, they're really having trouble over there right now with their whole cultural shift. So I would encourage your listeners, your viewers, to start paying attention to what's going on in these other countries where people are fighting for freedom and the patriots are rising up and saying, we want freedom. Because in those countries, you will find that those patriot leaders are also being attacked like President Trump, because they're trying to get rid of the corruption. They're trying to protect things.
Well, we're the shining star.
Yeah.
And other countries are seeing what President Trump was left for dead at least 2 times. Not only that, but in the prison system as well. And these dictators, we need to get rid of all of them. I'm talking about the dictators that we have in Congress. We got some.
We do. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, we do. And we have to get out of these organizations like, the World Health Organization, the World Economic Forum, and all these things where I believe, President Trump understands the dangers that these are to our nation's sovereignty. And when we start to give up our sovereignty, we have enough trouble when we're sovereign, right? We don't need globalists to come in and decide, where we can live, what we can eat, who we can talk to, where we can drive, all of that. We don't need that. And that is something that, we need to be fighting against, because that's part of the globalist control. And it goes into, we were talking about the dumbing down of America, the lack of reliable energy, the food supply, everything. It's all part of the web of this socialism, Marxism type ideology that comes into globalist control. And, so when you want to know why Congress isn't voting the way that you want in terms of the DOGE cuts or some of these other policies that, you voted for President Trump, and the American people gave a huge mandate, again, follow the money. And it usually goes back to those globalist organizations somehow.
You better believe it does. And I want to say, we've got about 2 minutes left in the segment. I wanted to mention this. Okay, so a lot of folks won't say anything back to the congressman or woman, whatever. They won't say anything because they're in awe of them. They're in awe of their presence, And now there's a difference between respecting someone and just being in awe of their presence. I respect our congressperson. I really do. And I was saying it. I respect all of that. But when they're not doing what you hired them to do, they need to go. So you need to be looking for a replacement for them, which is what we're doing right here in South Carolina. We're looking for a replacement. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and we got the power to do that, and we should feel good about that.
Yes.
And we need to ask questions. Now, I'm not saying going in being rude and that kind of thing. I'm just saying ask a question. This is part of the deal right here. This is the art of communication. You simply say what you want to say and shut your mouth and let them stumble. What you got to do.
Let them hang themselves with the rope. One of the things you talked about using your voice too, one of the things that I help employees understand, like if I go to speak to a business or I speak at an event, and I help employees understand that, if you're looking at wanting someone to be an advocate for your job or your company, and same with employers, a lot of times businesses hire lobbyists or people to go to DC and be their voice. Okay, or go to their state capital. That's fine. But I tell people, what is going to make more impact? Is it going to be the one lobbyist who comes into DC, and goes to the office and does a little tour and says, hi, I'm here on behalf of, okay? Or is it going to be the 500 employees of that company who call and say, look,
bingo,
matters to me, or they show up at the town hall meeting and say, this issue matters to me. If there's time after the break, I'll give a really good example of that.
Well, we're going to have to go. Thank you, Linda, for being on the show today. As always, hang around. I'm going to get you set up for next month, okay? Don't go anywhere. Guys, thank you so much for watching Donna's Edge Talk Show. Continue sending emails. It really does make my day. You are not bothering me within the least. Donna at donnasedge.com. Donna at donnasedge.com. Thank you for watching.
Are you ready?
We all wonder what tomorrow will bring, but the future lays itself at the feet of the prepared and surrenders to the will of the persistent. It's not easy, But today shapes you so you can shape tomorrow. With Northeast Alabama Community College, when the future asks if you're ready, you can answer.
Yes.
Begin your future at Northeast Alabama Community College.